Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Yes, it is time for another video. In this video, we're going to be looking at which used McLaren you should be buying in 2024, if indeed you are currently getting a bit excited about the possibility of purchasing one of these amazing cars, and they are absolutely amazing. We last looked at this in 2022, so what has changed since then? Is there any new advice? Is my advice still the same? We will be finding all of this out. Don't forget, I've owned a 570S myself. Wonderful cars. Also, if you watch YouTube at all, which I guess you kind of do, right, because you're watching it now, and you follow cars, you're probably going to know who Harry Metcalf is. Yes, he's pretty much motoring royalty. I met him at Silverstone recently at the Pirelli Day. Lovely guy. Of course, really knows his stuff and has a wonderful car collection, but he swapped out his Lotus Emira for a 650S, which he then went on to take on a 2,000-mile trip to the south of France, and it pretty much didn't bat an eyelid. No problem at all. And I don't think you can really compare the Lotus Emira with the 650S. They're in completely different leagues. Yes, they have four wheels. Yes, they have a mid-engine layout, but the Lotus Emira was pretty much built on the Evora, a bit of an aged platform by now. And of course, it uses that 2GR engine, which is ancient, I think from 2004. The 650S is in another league altogether, just in terms of performance, handling, capability. So, not really a fair comparison, but either way, he made the right choice. 650S, much better car. And we'll be looking at that today. Is that one you should be potentially considering? Now, there is a lot to unravel with this video, a lot to unpick. There's a lot of cars that McLaren make and have made in the past, and there's a lot available on Auto Trader if you're having a look. Now, let's start right back at the basics. Firstly, what did I recommend in 2022 when I last did this video? Well, it was the 570S and the 720S. Has that changed? Well, we'll be finding that out a bit later on in this video. Now, starting from the bottom, the cheapest McLaren available today in the UK is one at £59,000. £59,000, 60K. It seems very, very cheap. And if you look at the prices of McLarens in general, they are very, very cheap, very affordable, and they represent significant value for money compared to some of the competition out there, comparable cars, the likes of Porsche GT cars, Ferraris as well, that sit significantly above McLaren in the price bracket. And as I've said before, I think one of the biggest challenges McLaren have is their reputation. And the reputation isn't quite in line with reality. I have said that before, and I will say it again. I think the reputation they have doesn't do them justice. They are better than that. The cars are better than that, especially when they're well looked after. And we'll be getting into a lot of detail around that in this video. So that car, the 60 grand car, is a McLaren MP4 12C. That name really rolls off the tongue. These are getting a little bit old now. They were first released in 2011, so they're over 10 years old now. And a lot of these cars have been pretty well used. They're getting a little bit long in the tooth maybe. And the MP4 early cars especially did have some issues. Now, that's not to say that you can't find one that is going to be reliable and work really well for you. Absolutely. And here's the thing with these, right? We've mentioned Thorny Motorsports on this channel before. Indeed, we've had John Thorne on. Wonderful guy, really knows his McLarens, a complete ambassador for the brand, and is doing fantastic things for them, and good for him, right? It's people like him that help keep these cars going and help you, potential customers, to get the best possible experience out of these cars that you can. So if we look at the number of MP4s or 12Cs or whatever you want to call them, it's such a bizarre name, isn't it? On Auto Trader, you will see that there's 19 cars available, but I dug a little bit deeper on this, and it transpires that 11 of those up for sale right now are for sale through Thorny Motorsports, John Thorne and his team, which is great because that is a car I would absolutely be comfortable buying. If I was after getting an MP4, I would absolutely buy it through John Thorne and Thorny Motorsports and have, I'm pretty positive, a very, very good experience indeed. So to me, I would have discounted the MP4, potentially, the 12C. I might have not offered it to you as one of the cars to potentially buy, but it is definitely worth consideration if you're looking at a very cost-effective McLaren. The price for the cheapest one, as we discussed, 59k, up to 115k, which is probably a bit on the high side for a 12C for me. I would be looking at one that is better value, a bit cheaper to get into. Early cars were known for having issues, and those issues tended to revolve around things like the gearbox, that Graziano unit. Graziano make all of the gearboxes for McLaren, and some other general reliability issues, but later cars tend to do better. And cars that are out there now that have had all fixtures applied to them, that have been well looked after, that are for sale through routes like John Thorne, should give you a very positive experience. But does it make my shortlist of McLarens you should buy in 2024? We'll find out. Next up, we're going to discuss the Sport Series as it's known. So cars like the 570S. Now, what is surprising to me now is the amount of 540C cars that are available. Absolutely the same platform, slightly less power, stainless steel brakes. I believe this car was originally intended for the Eastern market, specifically countries like Singapore, to potentially save on tax, to make it more attractive for people looking at these cars out there where car tax is absolutely insane. You need a purchase entitlement, etc. But these cars are great cars, right? It's a great platform. Now, there's plenty to choose from right now. There are 11 cars available on Auto Trader. I've never seen so many 540Cs available for sale. It's great if you want something at a slightly lower price point. Those 11 cars range from 67k up to 83k. Again, a lot of car for your money. Next up is the legendary 570S in both coupe and spider form. I had a 570S, and yes, they are absolutely brilliant cars, without any doubt. Absolutely loved it, and representing a very, very strong price point right now. In terms of the numbers that are available, there are 41 cars available in the UK right now, ranging from 67k to 109k, which is a really, really attractive price point. Now, in that, I have included the Spiders. So even the most expensive McLaren 570S in the UK right now is only 109k. And what has surprised me when I revisited this right now, and hopefully it excites you too, is how much the prices of the Spiders have come down into parity with that of the coupe. They used to command a significant premium, these Spiders, but alas, it doesn't seem to be or positive or good things, it doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So you could stretch to a Spider variant of those cars, and of course, Spider giving you the opportunity to get the top down and really hear that engine. And for some cars, it is a must, the 600LT specifically. So that 570S, again, great car, great range of choice out there, and we'll be discussing some things to consider if buying any one of these cars towards the end of this video. Next up is a car that is very exciting right now, and that is the 600LT. There are 30 of those available for sale from 119k, which is fantastic value given how much these cars were new, right? And remember, the problem with this LT was it wasn't as limited as it should have been. I think they kept making them, and that's why you saw so many out there, and prices aren't as strong as any of the other LT variants that McLaren made in the past. So the great thing about the 600LT though is it is a brilliant car. It's absolutely bonkers. If you get the Spider version of that, you of course have the twin afterburners at the back, those upwards exhausts that shoot flames, and of course the spoiler on the rear is made out of special material so that it doesn't burn too badly when you're giving it some beans up the road or around the track. but a great car. Now, one other thing that caught my eye on Auto Trader was that 620R. We've had that on the channel before too, right? Really exciting car, really unique car. It is the track bonkers version of the Sport Series, the ultimate Sport Series you can buy. Everything kind of ripped out, really raw, really visceral car. It's absolutely phenomenally good fun. And there's one of those for sale for 219K. Would I buy that? I'm not so sure. Now, there's two types of buyers here. There's people that buy to invest and people that buy for fun, to enjoy their cars. And that 620R is a car that should be enjoyed around track. I don't necessarily think it's going to go up in value. I don't know if it offers enough differentiation from the rest of that Sport Series to hold on to that 219K valuation. So that's one I'd probably avoid for now, but it is an absolutely awesome bit of kit. And if you want to buy one to maybe pop in the garage and just hold on, you never know. It could increase in value, but that's pretty much the Sport Series. Let's move on to the beefier versions of these cars. And you can't talk about McLarens without mentioning the mighty 720S. So let's take a look at that. Right now, there are 61 cars available for sale on Auto Trader, going from 109K up to 189K. So quite a range of cars and a lot of choice, but 109K for a 720S seems like too good an offer to be true. I would definitely look at that car in close detail to ensure that it is true and good. But that said, it does represent the fact that these cars have now come down significantly in value. If you look at the range of cars there, you can get into something at a great price point. And when I say something, these cars are absolutely insane. The Active Aero, real road presence. And it's kind of hypercar territory, to be fair. These really, really awesome cars and will probably always remain on the list. But does it make the shortlist? Let's find out at the end of the video. Now, I did notice this one beautiful spec 720S for sale, 189K. It's absolutely stunning and my ideal spec, but I would not be spending that much on a 720 right now. Go in at a lower price point and get you more value, better bang for buck than going in high and just probably taking on quite a bit of depreciation in that car over a relatively short space of time. Whilst we're at the sort of 700 brake horsepower-y figures, I want to jump back a little bit to the Artura. Now, the Artura is McLaren's first hybrid supercar. I say first because it's the first mass-produced hybrid supercar. Of course, we all know the mighty McLaren P1, which is another level, and we'll get there in a bit. But the Artura has, in my eyes, seen some of the worst depreciation of any McLaren to date in a short space of time. Now, these things at list are 200K plus with options, right? And we've seen here in Auto Trader that there are now 18 available for sale at 139K is the cheapest of those for a car that is pretty much a year old. So that's taken a real hit on depreciation. The most expensive is 199K. They have announced the Spider version. I've yet to see that out and about in the wild. But why is this so cheap? Well, it is so cheap not because it's a doozy of a car. The car itself is fantastic. I've been out in one, I've test driven one. They're just brilliant, brilliant cars. Really refined, really powerful. You have the full electric mode as well, but they were beset with problems from the get-go. Thermal incidents, as they called them, things going wrong, reliability reports, and it just kind of fell through from a marketing and release perspective. There were delays, there were setbacks, and I think here again, reputation and what you read has really damaged this car's ability to be recognized as a car that is going to be reliable for you in the long run. Now, I called out that sort of 700 bhp figure. We know the Artura is 670, but there is an upgrade package now that McLaren will do for free. It's a reprogramming that will get you up to 700 bhp, which is significant bang for buck for a car at that level. Really, really powerful car, right? Really capable. So should you buy an Artura? And surely at 139K, it makes quite good sense. Well, here is the thing with the Artura. I personally, myself, wouldn't discount it as a purchase option. I know people that run them and have had no issues. They've been a very strong, very capable car. And it is a wonderful car from a technological standpoint, just in terms of what they've achieved reliability issues aside. Now, since its release, there have been countless updates to software, to the platform itself, to make the cars better and more reliable. If I was looking at one of these, I would just ensure that it has had every single update possible installed on it, that it has been refreshed with all the latest and greatest fixes that McLaren know of. And I'm sure there's been quite a few with these. But absolutely, I wouldn't discount this as a platform, but does it make the shortlist? Well, we'll find out at the end. We now get into sort of crazy money territory. So we're talking 200K plus for these cars. So 675 LT, which is absolutely bonkers good and has some of the best feedback we've ever seen from Eddie McLaren. That still hasn't changed. 2 years since the last video. 675 LT, still commanding significant value. And is it a good used buy for you? Well, potentially, yeah, if you're a bit more cash rich, because it's still a significant investment. And how different is it from a 650S, which is 100, 120K cheaper right now? You struggle to kind of justify the additional 100K spent. I certainly do in my head anyway. Yes, it's a great car. Same with cars like the 750S and 765 LT. So 750S, there's 9 of those for sale, and they are significantly expensive right now, but holding their value really well, which is great to see for that. Of course, it's based on the 720S with a lot of fixes, new suspension, etc., and suspension's already brilliant. So the 750S is a car to watch. Don't buy it now, it's too expensive. I think for me, it doesn't represent a good second-hand buy. I think there's 9 or so available on Auto Trader when I had a look, and the prices are really strong, 250K plus for these cars. So for me, I just watch those for a bit. If it comes down, it could be a brilliant used buy, because it's the 720S, if you like, with a load of fixes and updates, and should be a brilliantly solid car. Well, I know it's a brilliantly solid car because, yes, I test drove one around Silverstone recently, and it was a brilliant experience. So that's the same with all the LTs. The 765 LT, again, really strong value. So if you're wanting something that might hold its value a bit better, then look at the LTs. If you just want to get into a car and use it, and not necessarily worry about it too much, look for something lower down the price point, like a 720S, for example, like a 600 LT, perhaps. I want to talk as well about the GT and the McLaren GT, which is a bit of an anomaly and probably has the least McLaren-y front end of any car they've made. Everyone that's had one raves about them. I know folk who have them. They say it's a brilliant car, really refined, really comfortable. Of course, you get a bit of additional space in the rear, plenty of power. But for me, it's never really set my heart on fire to look at from a design standpoint, from a McLaren standpoint. A GT, if you're kind of up for a bit of a chilled out drive, and yeah, you can get one of those for pretty good money now as well. Around about the 100K mark will get you a really good GT. So that one, I'm going to tell you now, isn't going to make my shortlist in this video. And we've got to touch on the bonkers hypercars just quickly while we're here. And of course, there is the wonderful Senna. Now, the Senna seems to be going up in value from what I've seen recently. The base price point of that seems to be ticking up. They got pretty low at one point, but they seem to have strengthened in value. And I think that's probably going to continue to increase. These cars are really sought after from a track perspective. I'm not a huge fan myself. I think it's got probably the least McLaren-y back end of any car I've ever seen. But each to their own right. The P1 will continue to stay strong in terms of values, and of course it's not really a used car I can recommend that you buy because it's insanely expensive, and it's an investment piece really, and of course things like the battery needing replacement, and that's going to set you back I think £110,000. So these things aren't cars for the everyday folk. Well, the average everyday folk, right? Some everyday folk, yes it is. So that is it for the cars. I wanted to just give you a really quick blast through some of the cars that McLaren have made. Of course, there's a few others out there as well. The Solus, the Sabre, but we won't touch on those. These are the cars that are readily available now on Auto Trader, and there's a great choice through some great reputable dealers. Now, I just want to quickly touch on, before we get to the cars I can recommend, the warranty situation, right? Now, I wouldn't necessarily bother with a McLaren warranty these days because they are very expensive. I cannot stress enough, we mentioned again earlier, John Thorne and Thorny Motorsports. Warranty through that man is $2,850, and it will cover quite a lot of the car, I think up to a maximum of 10K. But looking at the history and what's happened to people's cars, you're going to tend to be able to fix anything for about 10K max on a McLaren. you know, down to a full engine rebuild if necessary. Of course, if you lose the block, then yeah, it's a different story. But it is something I would definitely consider. Your route to market, how you purchase these cars. Don't necessarily be reeled in by a McLaren main dealer, because you're going to be paying a lot of premium. You know, some McLaren dealers are better than others for sure, but I would definitely consider purchasing a car through Thorny Motorsports. He's got some franchises out in America now, I think 3 now, which is fantastic. So opening up the capability over the pond. And yeah, it's just getting access to that knowledge and people who are just going to be honest with you about their cars, no BS. Incidentally, McLaren will charge you a post-track inspection if you want to track your car. Yeah. Who'd have thunk it, right? You want to track your McLaren, you have to pay a post-track inspection warranty check to ensure that it is still in good order, and McLaren will honour the warranty. And I think that's about 500 quid. For a car that should be on track to go on track, to me it makes no sense. Thorny don't do that with you. So that is definitely something to bear in mind. If you are buying through an Indy or a private sale, I would absolutely look at getting the car inspected by someone with some reputation, again, like Thorny Motorsports, like V Engineering as well, really good guys there, but someone who really knows these cars inside out, who are going to give you an honest update about what the car you're looking to buy is like. It's very important to know what you're getting into with cars at this level. So that is it for this video. Now, what are my recommendations? What are my recommendations for purchase? Now, it's going to be a bit of a curveball, this one. The previous video, we had a 570S and the 720S. My recommendations now are, yes, the 570S, but specifically the Spider version of that, because that represents the best, some of the best value for money on Auto Trader right now. If you want to go a bit more crazy, 600 LT, but 570S Spider representing significant value. The 720S remains as an option. It's an awesome car, the 720S, real presence. In one of those, you're going to be over the moon, and you can get one now for a song. So crack on if you're interested in one of those. And then my third curveball is going to be the Artura. The Artura, because they've depreciated so much, and that's advantageous for you, right? Like Porsche Taycans at the moment, right? They have absolutely tanked in value, but if you're a used buyer, it's great because you're getting some serious car for your money. All those Arturas still in McLaren warranty right now. They're a year old. So you're going to get something that, should there be any issues, they're going to fix it, they're going to put it right. And fingers crossed, if it's already been updated, it'll be great. So the Artura is one to look at. If you can get one at about that sort of 140 to 160K price point, should you have a little bit more cash. Yes, it probably will depreciate a little bit more, but what an amazing car. So we have the 570S Spider, the 720S still retains its spot, and of course, the Artura. That is it for this one. Do stay safe, stay well, see you on the next one, and bye for now.